In the past few years, we have seen many examples of the media and the education system trying to introduce highly sexual content to children. This includes inserting much more sexual themes in material consumed mainly by children, such as educational material and visual content. A large portion of this new sexual material for children include introducing them to concepts such as homosexual marriage or transgenderism, with the more sexual aspects being more pronounced. And in some cases, children who are not even able to read are becoming aware of the intricacies of the weirdest sex acts. There are examples of children being taught about gay marriage in preschool, and many examples of children's TV shows and movies including gay characters. This includes TV shows and movies such as Arthur, Toy Story 4, and onwards. One shocking example was Disney's film Turning Red, which was a not-so-subtle metaphor for puberty, and also included a scene which encouraged schoolgirls to start prostituting themselves. But where this issue is really bad is in the sex education being given to children in schools. One controversial example of this was the news that many schools in the United Kingdom have started teaching children as young as 6 years old about masturbation. In another example from Australia, schoolgirls were taught about bestiality as a sexual orientation. Also, many of the educational material being given to children as part of school libraries contained very explicit sexual material. One example was the German government designating a book as a recommended educational material which literally described and normalized prostitution for girls in the age range of 6 to 12 years old. As was said, the age group at which children are being introduced to these materials is also being constantly brought down. So why does the left insist so much on sexualizing young children, when it has always been a point of contention between them and conservatives, and also between them and just normal parents? Because as we have seen, the issue of sexual material in schools have been one of the few issues that have actually led to public protests against the state's liberal sexual ideology in the West. So why do they want to bring sex into the minds of young kids? Why are they willing to risk their reputation for this? Obviously, one of the main reasons is that young children are more susceptible to education, and it is easier to change their worldview before their minds are fully formed. This is why we are seeing the younger generations increasingly identifying as LGBT, and also why transgenderism among children is seeing an astronomical growth. But there's also another reason for this, and this reason was explicitly written down by the father of the sexual revolution, Wilhelm Reich. If you don't know who Wilhelm Reich is, he was an Austrian communist who first came up with the idea that giving in to sexual desires was humanity's path to happiness, fulfillment and salvation. While many liberals before him had called for complete sexual freedom, his ideas were the first that put sex at the center of human existence. He believed that the suppression of human sexual urges would lead to unhappiness. He also believed that the energy of orgasms was the main force of the universe, and he actually built space cannons powered by orgasmic energy that he intended to shoot down aliens with. If all this sounds completely insane, it's because it actually is. Wilhelm Reich would end up being arrested by American authorities for fraud, and he would eventually die in prison in 1952. But his ideas laid the foundation for the sexual revolution of the 60s, as they were later picked up and further expanded by philosophers such as Herbert Marcuse. But the target of Reich's ideas were not simply adults, as he also believed in a special role for sexuality in the lives of children. In his writings, he talks about the case of a 7-year-old girl who started praying to God despite being raised by atheist communist parents. Reich, being a militant atheist communist himself, decided that he had to cure this girl from her religiosity, and his prescription was sin, particularly sexual sin. He taught the small girl how to masturbate, and instructed her to do so frequently. After some time, the girl stopped praying to God, and thus Reich's cure was a success. Since the modern sexual ideology of the left is largely based on Reich, we can conclude that the reason the left is trying so hard to sexualize the lives of children is to make them addicts to sin from an early age, and by doing so, vaccinate them against God. Leave a comment and let us know what you think. Share this video if you liked it, and thank you all for watching. Goodbye.